A few years ago, I posted a video titled The Biggest Problem with the Shonen Genre. It's a decent video about some of my problems with battle shonen specifically, but the content of the video doesn't really matter. I made it, titled it, and tossed it out there without too much of an issue, and I kinda just moved on with my life. But over the years, I've been getting the exact same comment over and over and over again, saying that shonen isn't a genre, it's actually a demographic. And for a while, I kinda brushed this off. Shonen is by definition a demographic. I just called it a genre in my title because I thought it sounded better. But after thinking about it for almost 3 years now, you know what? F you guys. Shonen is a genre, and I'm gonna tell you why. To start out with, let's get our terminology straight. A demographic is a term that primarily refers to a certain subsection of a population. This can be stratified using certain key features such as age, race, or location. When you're talking about media, the most common features used in organizing demographics are someone's age and gender. In books, for example, you have young adult novels, which is a category defined by more mature themes and storylines designed to appeal to people in their teens to early 20s. But in addition to the demographic that a piece of media appeals to, you can also categorize it using its genres. A genre is an arbitrary term that can be used to describe the setting, plot, or story of a certain piece of media, something that helps further section off certain stories based on what types of people they may appeal to. Describing something as a historical comedy tells you everything you need to know about the time period and general tone. Saying that a manga is a romantic sports series implies something about the overall story arc and characters. It's kinda pointless to keep giving examples because genres are almost endlessly modular. Pretty much anything that describes a central aspect of a story can be considered a genre. Now, I'm not trying to argue that shonen isn't a demographic, it almost certainly is. After all, the term literally translates to young boy or youth. And that tells you everything you need to know about the demographic that it appeals to. Pretty much all shonen stories are designed to specifically target younger male individuals. This also holds true for the other main Japanese demographics of shoujo, seinen, and josei, meant for younger girls, older men, and older women respectively. The question that I want to answer then is what separates a genre from a demographic? This may seem pretty cut and dry at first. A demographic describes the people that a series appeals to, while a genre is used to indicate the actual content of the story, which would mean that shonen and its cousins count as demographics, since they specifically describe the characteristics of people that they're designed to target. But this line is a lot blurrier than it may at first seem. The descriptor of adult, for example, seems to confidently sit on both sides. It can be taken to literally mean that the series is meant to target adults or older individuals, or to indicate that the content of the story is explicit in some way, which means that it seems to check the boxes for being both a genre and a demographic. In looking at these other demographics through a similar lens, we start to see that this isn't a one-time thing. Using the word shonen to describe a series does definitively tell you about the type of people it appeals to, but it also implies a number of things about the actual content of the story too. You can assume a lot about its length, the tropes and character archetypes it uses, or even certain elements of the plot. And the fact that it tells you those things about the actual elements of a story makes it seem like a pretty good fit for a genre. And you may argue that shonen is a lot broader of a term than a genre should be. After all, it can describe anything from a high fantasy to a sports series. But honestly, I'd say that shonen exhibits a lot more detail than some pretty well-established genres do. Historical, for example, only tells you that the time period of a series is somewhere in the past. From there, the story could be set anywhere from feudal Japan to medieval Europe and be about plots as different as romantic comedies or dark action series. So really, the vagueness of shonen shouldn't be enough to discount it from being a genre. The nail in the coffin, for me at least, comes down to how much information you can get using shonen as a genre versus just a normal demographic. People can decide whether or not they'll enjoy the content of the story based solely on the fact that a series is described as a shonen. Because from that simple term, you can glean more than just the audience it appeals to. You can also assume a lot of things about the type of story that it'll be. You'll probably have a large cast of characters, some type of power system, and arcs so long they could easily be their own spin-off series. I would argue that there are even some cases where a series can be described as part of the shonen genre without actually appealing to the shonen demographic. I feel like I use this show as an example way too much as of late, but Chainsaw Man is an anime that I think fits that description to a T. So much of what makes Chainsaw Man special comes down to the way the series takes a lot of the tropes of shonen to their logical extremes, especially with the characters and the main plot, which shares so many similarities with other shonen series, but feels so different and unique because of how special this series is. A lot of the charm of the anime comes from its identity as part of the shonen genre, but despite that, I would never in a million years say that Chainsaw Man appeals to the shonen demographic. Sure, it may have been published in Shonen Jump, the premier magazine for all shonen manga, but I don't think anyone could classify Chainsaw Man as being childish or appealing to a younger demographic. It's gory and violent and mature in a way that just wouldn't resonate with the same audiences as other shonen series do. I would know. I tried reading Chainsaw Man back when I was 15 or so, and I could not understand or enjoy it for the life of me. But now as a young adult, it's one of my favorite anime of all time. That just goes to show how much shonen as a term has evolved over the years. Even though the term's original use was probably limited to being a demographic, the word has grown and changed over time to the point that it can be used to describe the genre of a series without even meaning that it appeals to a younger crowd. And I think that that's really cool. I would even go so far as to say that the same phenomena has occurred for the other main Japanese demographics too. To be honest, it may even be more evident with shoujo than with shonen. Part of the appeal of shonen is the vast array of art styles that can be a part of it. You can get stuff like the grungy and post-apocalyptic art style of Gachiakuta, alongside the hyper-stylized comic book world of My Hero. But shoujo series have evolved to have their own signature art styles, with their own techniques and approaches to character design too, which makes it an even stronger contender for a genre than the more diverse field of shonen. I think the biggest takeaways here are that these descriptors are purely arbitrary. They exist to streamline the experience of talking about media and finding stuff that appeals to you. Whether you believe that shonen is a genre or not, it doesn't really matter, because we're all here out of a love for this medium and the many amazing stories that have come out of it. If you couldn't already tell, I'm not actually upset that people kept correcting me and saying that shonen is a demographic. It was an arbitrary choice that I made like 2 years ago, and it doesn't even say anything about my personal opinion on the matter. But I just thought that this would be a funny and interesting way to have an open conversation about genre, because I really don't like the way it's been talked about online as of late. Over the years, I've seen so many vitriolic conversations about what constitutes a genre or demographic or whatever, and it really just rubs me the wrong way. These words exist to make conversation easier and more fun, and taking them so seriously that you tear each other apart over them just doesn't feel right. Demographics and genres aren't something so concrete that there can be any sort of correct answer for them. I mean, I think it is objectively true that shonen is a demographic, but in terms of its validity as a genre, it's all up to personal preference. So at least in my opinion, it really doesn't make sense to take this stuff so seriously that you get upset over it. As long as you're able to talk about the things you like in a way that makes sense to you, I say that's all that matters. If I did incite any rage through this video, I'm sorry, that really wasn't my intention. I just thought that acting super upset and self-important about things would be a funny way to frame this video. Hopefully nobody took it too seriously, and if you did, that's kind of part of the whole problem I was talking about. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed and that this video was entertaining and at least a bit informative. Thank you so much for watching.